Fell like bullets on Seoul streets at 2 a.m., and Ella David was dragging a dying man across the Moonlight Hotel lobby. "Sir! Sir, please don't die here," she whispered frantically, her small frame struggling under his weight. "My manager hates dead people." Blood trailed behind them like a scarlet river across white marble floors. His expensive suit was shredded, his face pale as death itself. Ella's heart hammered against her ribs as she kicked open the laundry room door, the smell of detergent mixing with the metallic tang of blood. She shouldn't be doing this. She should call the police. Ambulance. Someone who knew what bleeding meant. But his eyes had found hers in that moment outside, dark, desperate, human, and she couldn't look away. Now he lay among washing machines and abandoned hotel linens, his breathing shallow. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in harsh, clinical white. Ella grabbed towels, pressing them against the wound in his side, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold pressure. "You're going to be okay," she lied, tears streaming down her face. "You're going to be fine." His hand suddenly gripped her wrist. Weak, but deliberate. His eyes opened, sharp, intelligent, utterly focused despite the blood loss. "What's your name?" His voice was rough, accented with privilege she'd never possessed. "Ella. Ella David." He smiled then. Actually smiled, blood on his teeth. "Ella." "Yes, sir." "Please rest. Save your strength. If I survive." He coughed, his grip tightening on her wrist. "I'll marry you." Ella froze. Stared at this beautiful, bleeding stranger who just proposed while dying in a laundry room. "Sir, please rest. You're hallucinating. You've lost too much blood." His eyes closed, his hand going limp. "Sir. Sir." But he was unconscious again, his chest barely rising. Ella sat back on her heels, covered in a stranger's blood, and wondered if she just witnessed a death or a promise. Outside, the rain continued its violent symphony. Inside, among the hum of industrial washers and the chemical sweetness of fabric softener, something impossible had just begun. She didn't know the dying man was Kang Jae-won, billionaire heir and Seoul's most dangerous secret. Like and subscribe, because what happens next will destroy everything you think you know about love. He came back the next day. Alive. Walking. Carrying 2 cups of terrible convenience store coffee. Ella was scrubbing toilets on the 3rd floor when she saw him standing in the hallway, perfectly healthy in a crisp black suit, as if he hadn't been dying 12 hours ago. She dropped her brush. "You're alive." "Disappointed?" He smiled, extending a coffee cup. "I know. How?" She took the coffee with shaking hands, still wearing yellow rubber gloves. "You were dying. You were dying. I got better." He leaned against the wall, wincing slightly. "Turns out not dying is a strong motivator. You need a hospital. I need to know your schedule." Ella blinked. "My, what?" "Your schedule. When do you finish work? When do you eat? When can I see you again? Why would you want to see me again?" He looked at her like she'd asked why the sun rose. "Because I told you I'd marry you. I keep my promises." That was how it started. Jae-won appeared every day like clockwork. Always with coffee. Always with flowers that he'd clearly overpaid for. Always with jokes so terrible that Ella wondered if rich people had access to worse comedy. "Why did the coffee file a police report?" he asked one morning. "I don't know. It got mugged." He waited for her laugh with such hopeful eyes that she couldn't help but give it to him. "That's awful," she giggled, accepting a bouquet of roses. "I know." He grinned like he'd won a prize. "Tomorrow will be worse." She learned things about him slowly. He was in business, never specified what business. He had money, more than she could imagine. He had enemies, never explained who. But she learned more important things too. He remembered she liked sugar in her coffee but no cream. He noticed when she was tired and brought dinner without being asked. He listened to her dreams about fashion design like they were world-changing prophecies. One night, riding the bus together after her shift, he asked quietly, "Why are you alone, Ella?" The city lights blurred past the window. She traced a pattern on the foggy glass. "I was left at an orphanage when I was 3, she said softly. No note. No name. No reason. Just, left. His hand found hers, lacing their fingers together. "The director named me David because I was small but wouldn't stop fighting." She smiled sadly. "I aged out at 18 with 2 dresses and a dream nobody believed in." "I believe in it," Jae-won said. She turned to look at him. "You don't even know what it is. You want to design clothes that make people feel beautiful. You want to create art that people can wear. You want your name on a label in Seoul Fashion Week." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You want to prove you're worth remembering." Tears burned her eyes. "How did you?" "Because I see you, Ella David. All of you." What Jae-won didn't tell her was that he ran half of Seoul's underground. That the Black Wolf wasn't a legend but a name whispered in terror through criminal networks. That the blood in the laundry room had come from a territorial war he'd won. That thousands of men would kill at his command. That he controlled weapons, drugs, territory, everything except his own heart, which now belonged to a hotel cleaner who laughed at his terrible jokes. He'd built an empire on fear and violence, and then she'd press towels to his wound and begged him not to die. Nobody had ever begged him to live before. Their first kiss happened in a broken elevator. 3 months into their courtship, the hotel elevator trapped them between floors. Ella panicked immediately. "We're going to die here. We're going to run out of oxygen and..." Jae-won pulled her close, his hands framing her face. "Ella. Look at me." She did. His eyes were calm, steady, safe. "We're not dying," he said softly. "We have plenty of air. And even if we didn't..." He smiled. "I'd give you mine." She kissed him then. Sweet and desperate and terrifying. He kissed her back like she was oxygen itself, like he'd been holding his breath his entire life until this moment. When the elevator jerked back to life, they pulled apart, breathless. "Marry me," he whispered. "We've known each other 3 months. Marry me." "You're insane." "Completely." He rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me anyway." 6 months after the laundry room, they stood in a tiny courthouse with a bored official and absolutely no guests. Ella wore a white dress from a thrift store. Jae-won wore a suit that cost more than her yearly salary. The cake was from a convenience store and tasted like cardboard. The rings were simple silver bands. There were no photos, no family, no celebration. Just 2 people promising forever in a fluorescent-lit government building. "I don't even know what you really do," Ella whispered as they left. Jae-won laced his fingers through hers. "I'm in business." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." He stopped walking, turning to face her on the courthouse steps. "But I can promise you this, everything I am, everything I have, everything I've ever done, it's all yours now." "Does that scare you?" Ella thought about it. About the secrets in his eyes. About the scars on his body. About the way dangerous men stepped aside when he walked past. "Terrify me tomorrow," she said finally. "Love me today." He did both. 6 months into their secret marriage, Ella finally got her chance. Seoul Fashion Week. Emerging Designer Showcase. Her collection, 12 pieces she'd sewn by hand in their apartment while Jae-won pretended to understand fashion terminology, had been selected. "You're going to be amazing," Jae-won whispered backstage, kissing her forehead. His phone buzzed incessantly, business he couldn't ignore. "I have to handle something, but I'll be back before your walk. I promise." "Go." She straightened his collar, smiling despite her nerves. "Save the world. I'll save fashion." He left reluctantly, and Ella tried not to feel the abandonment that always lurked beneath her skin. The show was electric. Lights, music, cameras flashing like lightning. When her turn came, Ella walked that runway wearing her own design, a dress that merged traditional Korean elements with modern minimalism, telling a story of belonging and displacement in every stitch. The audience erupted in applause. In the front row, Jang Hyun-kyu stopped breathing. He was Seoul's most eligible bachelor, heir to the Jang Hotel empire, featured in gossip magazines weekly for his rotating girlfriends and reckless charm. He'd attended Fashion Week on a whim, bored and looking for entertainment. He found obsession instead. Ella moved like poetry. Her smile was genuine, untouched by the artificial glamour surrounding them. When she reached the runway's end, she didn't pose with practiced seduction. She simply existed, radiant and real. "Who is that?" Hyun-kyu leaned toward his assistant. "Ella David. New designer. This is her debut collection. I want her." His assistant, Min Seo, glanced up nervously. "Sir, I believe she's married." Hyun-kyu laughed. "Actually, I laughed. A debut designer? She was probably a cleaner 6 months ago. Married to what, a convenience store manager? She's lying about the ring to seem unavailable. Makes her more interesting." "Sir, I really think. Send flowers." "No, send a garden. What woman doesn't like flowers?" Backstage, Ella searched for Jae-won in the chaos of congratulations and business cards. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from him and 1 text, *emergency. "I'm so sorry. You were perfect. I know you were perfect, *. Her heart sank, but she understood. He'd warned her that his business demanded unpredictable hours. She just wished, once, it could demand less. The flowers arrived the next morning. 300 roses in crystal vases, filling their apartment's living room like a botanical invasion. The card read, "For the woman who walks like art. JHK." Ella stood in the doorway, genuinely confused. "Did you buy a flower shop?" Jae-won emerged from the bedroom, freezing mid-step. His expression shifted through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, realization, fury. "Who," he said very quietly, "sends flowers to married women?" "I don't know." Ella picked up the card, laughing. "JHK? Do we know about JHK? We're about to." Jae-won's voice carried an edge she'd rarely heard, the one that reminded her he was more than a businessman with terrible cooking skills. She touched his arm, still amused. "It's probably a mistake. Or a designer who liked my collection. It's sweet." "Sweet," he repeated flatly. "Someone invading my home with flowers for my wife is sweet. They're just flowers, Jae-won. They're a declaration." Ella rolled her eyes, gathering several vases. "Then I declare them bathroom decorations. Come help me make our toilet romantic." Despite himself, he smiled. Watching her arrange 300 roses around their bathroom, humming cheerfully while turning a threat into comedy, he felt his anger deflate slightly. But only slightly. The chocolates arrived 2 days later. Belgian, expensive, shaped like tiny designer dresses. The card, "Because your designs deserve something equally exquisite. JHK." Ella gave them to their building's security guards. The necklace arrived on Friday. A diamond piece worth more than their apartment, nestled in black velvet. The card, "This belongs around your neck. Say yes to dinner." JHK. Ella returned it immediately with her own note, "Sorry, but my husband will think you're proposing to him. Please stop. Mrs. Kong." That evening, Jae-won's tech specialist placed a file on his desk. Jang Hyun-kyu, the specialist said. Hotel Empire heir. Net worth 5 billion. Known for collecting beautiful things, art, cars, women. Reputation suggests he's never been told no in his life. Jae-won stared at Hyun-kyu's photograph, handsome, arrogant, smiling like the world owed him entertainment. He's pursuing my wife. It appears so, sir. Does he know who I am? Unknown. You've kept your marriage private. To most of Seoul's elite, Ella David is an unmarried, up-and-coming designer who some entitled child thinks he can collect. Jae-won's voice dropped to something dangerous. Contact him. Arrange a meeting. Sir, if I may, perhaps a warning first. Making an enemy of the Jang family could complicate. He made himself my enemy when he sent flowers to my wife. Jae-won closed the file, his expression shifting into something his enemies knew well. The Black Wolf wasn't just a name. It was a warning. Set the meeting. I want him to understand something very clearly. What should I tell him it's regarding? Jae-won smiled without warmth. Territory. At his own office across Seoul, Hyun-kyu received a mysterious meeting request from Kong Enterprises, and accepted with amusement. Another business hoping to curry favor, probably. He had no idea he'd just accepted an invitation to war. Outside their apartment, Ella admired her bathroom garden and thought about how lucky she was that her husband found jealousy funny. She had no idea that across the city, two billionaires were circling each other like predators. And she, innocent, laughing, arranging roses around a toilet, was the territory they'd go to war over. The gifts didn't stop. Despite Ella's rejection, despite her clear statement of marriage, Hyun-kyu escalated with the determination of someone who'd never encountered a closed door. Monday, a vintage Chanel handbag with a note. For carrying your dreams. JHK. Ella donated it to a charity auction. Wednesday, front row tickets to Paris Fashion Week. You belong on international stages. JHK. She gave them to an intern at her studio who cried with gratitude. Friday, a private island off Jeju. Ella stared at the deed sitting on their kitchen counter that evening, genuinely bewildered. Jae-won, she called out. Someone sent me an island today. The sound of a fork hitting ceramic echoed from the dining room. She walked in to find her husband frozen mid-bite, his expression carefully blank. An island, he repeated slowly. Yes. A whole island. Apparently. With water around it? That's generally how islands work, yes. Silence stretched between them. Jae-won set down his chopsticks with precise, controlled movements that Ella had learned meant he was internally screaming. Should I thank him? He asked, voice honey-sweet and absolutely lethal. Or perhaps relocate him to Antarctica? I hear the penguins are lovely this time of year. No violence. Ella snatched the deed, laughing despite the absurdity. I'm returning it tomorrow with a very firm letter explaining that married women don't accept islands from strangers. He's not a stranger anymore, Jae-won muttered. He's a problem. That night, he held her with unusual intensity, his face buried in her hair. If someone steals you, he whispered, I will cry on television. International television. With subtitles. She pulled back to look at him, finding genuine fear beneath the humor. Jae-won. I mean it. Ugly crying. On every news channel. Nobody's stealing me. She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. I chose you. I choose you. Some ridiculous rich boy with too much money and too little sense doesn't change that. He kissed her then, desperate, clinging, like she might evaporate. What Ella didn't see was the laptop he opened after she fell asleep, researching Jang Hyun-kyu with the thoroughness of someone planning either a business merger or an assassination. The meeting happened on neutral ground, an exclusive restaurant where both men owned private rooms. Hyun-kyu arrived expecting another business sycophant. Instead, he found a man whose presence made the temperature drop 10 degrees. Mr. Jang. Jae-won didn't stand. Thank you for coming. Kong Enterprises. Hyun-kyu settled into his chair, intrigued. I'll admit, I'm curious what this is about. Ella David. Hyun-kyu's smile widened. Ah. The designer. You're representing her? I'd love to discuss a collaboration between her brand and my hotels. I'm her husband. The smile froze. I'm sorry. Ella David is my wife, Jae-won said calmly, adjusting his cufflinks. It has been 6 months. The flowers, chocolates, necklaces, and frankly absurd island you've sent are unwanted and inappropriate. Hyun-kyu recovered quickly, leaning back with skeptical amusement. Her husband. You're telling me that Ella David, new designer, emerging talent, is married to you? Correct. Forgive my doubt, but I've researched her. Orphan background, worked as a hotel cleaner until recently, no family connections. You're claiming this woman is married. He gestured vaguely at Jae-won's obvious wealth and power. You. Love doesn't require a background check. It usually requires logic. Hyun-kyu's eyes narrowed. If you were really married, why isn't it public knowledge? Why no announcement? No photos? Because unlike some people, we don't perform our relationship for Seoul's entertainment. Or, Hyun-kyu smiled coldly, you're lying to eliminate competition. She's beautiful, talented, and you want her for yourself. I respect the hustle, truly, but I don't believe you. Jae-won pulled out his phone, sliding it across the table. The screen showed their marriage certificate. Hyun-kyu stared at it for a long moment. This could be forged. It's not. She never mentioned a husband. She doesn't owe you her life story. Then let me hear it from her. Hyun-kyu stood. I'll ask Ella directly. If she confirms this marriage, I'll back away. But if she hesitates, if there's any doubt. He smiled. Then you're just another man trying to control a woman's choices. Jae-won stood as well, and suddenly Hyun-kyu understood why people stepped aside when this man walked past. Ask her, Jae-won said quietly. But understand something first, Ella chose poverty with me over wealth without me. She chose love in a courthouse over luxury and loneliness. Whatever game you think you're playing, you've already lost. After he left, Hyun-kyu sat alone, staring at that marriage certificate on the phone screen. He should walk away. He should respect the marriage. Instead, he began investigating deeper. Because something didn't add up. Women like Ella David, beautiful, talented, kind, didn't marry shadows. And Kang Jae-won was definitely a shadow. What was he hiding? Meanwhile, Ella's fashion career exploded. Magazine features, collaboration offers, interview requests. She was thrilled, working 16-hour days, barely seeing Jae-won as his mysterious business consumed more of his time. They were ships passing in the night, she, rising toward light, he, sinking deeper into darkness to protect her from his world. One evening, she came home exhausted to an empty apartment. Again. The third night this week. Her phone buzzed. Jae-won, another emergency. I'm sorry. I love you. She stared at those words, feeling something crack inside her chest. Another message appeared. Unknown number, if you ever need someone who has time for you, I'm here. HK. She should delete it. She should block him. Instead, Ella sat in their empty apartment, holding her phone, and wondered when "I love you" had started to feel like an apology instead of a promise. The photo appeared on a Tuesday morning, viral before breakfast. Ella David, Seoul's rising fashion darling, captured in grainy surveillance footage accepting a thick envelope of cash from an unidentified man in a parking garage. The headline screamed fashion fraud designer using billionaire husband's money in illegal deals. Ella's phone exploded with calls. Her studio manager, frantic. Her publicist, panicking. Reporters demanding statements. She stared at the photo in disbelief. That's not, I've never. But it looked like her. Same hair, same build, same coat she'd worn last week. The article speculated wildly: money laundering, tax evasion, using her mysterious husband's wealth for criminal enterprises. It painted her as a gold digger who'd manipulated her way into high society. Her hands shook as she called J1. "Have you seen it?" Her voice cracked. "The photo, the article, it's not real, none of it's real." Silence on the other end. Long, terrible silence. "J1? I'm looking at it now," he said quietly. "It's fake. I don't know who that is or how they made it look like me, but I swear." "Ella." His voice was strange. Distant. "Are you hiding something from me?" Her blood went cold. "What? This photo. These accusations. Your sudden career success." Each word fell like a stone. "Are there things you haven't told me? You think She couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't breathe around the betrayal lodging in her throat. "You think I'm stealing from you? I think I don't know what to think. You don't trust me." It wasn't a question. It was the death of something. How can I trust what I don't understand? You're suddenly everywhere: magazines, shows, collaborations. All this success in 6 months. And now this photo. So you believe I'm a criminal? Tears burned her eyes. After everything we've been through, you see one fake photo and immediately assume I'm lying? Are you? The question destroyed her. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't be with someone who thinks so little of me." "Ella, wait." She hung up. For 10 minutes, she sat in her studio crying. Then she grabbed her coat and ran, needing air, needing distance, needing anything but this suffocating betrayal. The coffee shop was nearly empty. Ella collapsed into a corner booth, sobbing into her hands, not caring who saw. "Ella?" She looked up to find Hyun-kyu standing there, concern etched across his handsome face. "I saw the article," he said gently. "I know it's fake. Anyone with eyes can see it's fake." Fresh tears spilled over. "My husband doesn't." Something flickered in Hyun-kyu's expression. Without asking permission, he slid into the booth beside her. "Then your husband is an idiot." She laughed bitterly through her tears. "He thinks I'm using him. That everything between us was calculated. You're the least calculating person I've ever met." Hyun-kyu pulled out an expensive handkerchief, offering it to her. "You return to the island, Ella. Criminals don't return islands." Despite everything, she smiled weakly. He shifted closer, and she found herself leaning into his shoulder, exhausted and broken. His arm came around her carefully, platonically, just human comfort when she desperately needed it. "You deserve someone who trusts you," he murmured. "Someone who knows your heart without evidence." Across the street, a photographer captured the moment, Ella in Hyun-kyu's arms, her tears finally slowing, a small smile breaking through as he whispered something that made her laugh sadly. In the photo, it looked like intimacy. Like betrayal. Like everything J1 feared. At his office, J1's tech specialist burst in. "Sir." The photo was doctored. "We traced it, the woman isn't Mrs. Kong. It's a composite image using her face on someone else's body." The whole thing is fabricated. Relief flooded through Jae-won so powerfully he nearly collapsed. Get me the source. I want to know who. Sir. The specialist's face went pale. There's something else. He pulled up new photos on the screen. Recent. From an hour ago. Ella in Hyunkyu's arms at a coffee shop. Her head on his shoulder. His hand on her back. Her smiling through tears while he gazed at her with obvious tenderness. The relief died instantly, replaced by something far worse. When were these taken? 40 minutes ago. They're already circulating on social media. The caption says. The specialist hesitated. It says she went straight to Jang Hyunkyu after the scandal broke. Jae-won stared at the images. At his wife in another man's arms. At the smile on her face, the same smile she used to give him. Sir? What should we do? He stood slowly, his expression transforming into something his enemies recognized. The black wolf had been dormant, buried under love and domesticity. Not anymore. Nothing, he said coldly. She's made her choice. But sir, you don't know the context. I know she called me, I doubted her, and she ran straight to him. His voice was ice. I know she's smiling in his arms an hour after our marriage imploded. That's all the context I need. That night, Ella returned home hoping to explain, to reconcile, to fix what had broken. She found Jae-won waiting in the dark living room, those coffee shop photos spread across the table. Jae-won, let me explain. Don't. His voice was unrecognizable. Just, don't. He looked at her like she was a stranger. Like she was the enemy. The black wolf had awakened, and it only knew how to. You like him now? Ella froze in the doorway, her heart sinking at the ice in Jae-won's voice. What? Hyunkyu. He gestured to the photos scattered across their coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. You were with him. I was crying. She moved closer, desperate. The article destroyed me, you accused me of hiding things, and I ran. He found me. And you let him hold you. I was breaking apart. You were smiling. He pointed to one photo, his hand shaking. Right here. In his arms. Smiling. That was pain, Jae-won. That was me trying not to completely fall apart in public. Tears streamed down her face. He said something kind and I smiled for 1 second and someone photographed it. You went to him. Each word was a bullet. Not to a friend. Not to your studio. To the man who's been pursuing you for months. It was coincidence. Was it? He stood, and she'd never seen him look so cold. Or did you finally decide the man with time for you is better than the one who's always leaving? That's not fair. None of this is fair. His voice cracked. I doubted you for 5 minutes, Ella, and you ran into another man's arms. Because I was alone, she screamed back. Because you're always gone. Because I wake up alone, eat dinner alone, fall asleep alone while you handle mysterious business you won't explain. I was protecting you. From what? Life? Reality? Me actually knowing my own husband? She was sobbing now. I don't even know what you really do, Jae-won. I just know you're never here. So Hyunkyu is? No. Stop twisting this. I saw the photos. And I see an empty apartment every single night. Her voice broke completely. Maybe marrying you was my biggest mistake. The silence that followed was absolute. Jae-won stood perfectly still, her words visibly destroying him in slow motion. His face drained of color. His hands started shaking. You don't mean that, he whispered. But Ella was too hurt, too angry, too tired. Maybe I do. She grabbed her coat and left. This time, she didn't come back. The door closed, and Jae-won collapsed. Actually collapsed, knees hitting hardwood, hands gripping his hair, a sound tearing from his throat that wasn't quite human. He'd survived gang wars, bullet wounds, betrayals that should have killed him. Nothing had ever hurt like this. 3 months passed like a funeral procession. Ella rented a modest apartment across Seoul, threw herself into work with manic intensity. Her fashion line exploded, international attention, collaboration offers, magazine covers. She should have been thrilled. Instead, she felt hollow. She'd removed her wedding ring but could still feel its ghost on her finger. Every success felt meaningless without Jae-won there to celebrate with terrible jokes and proud eyes. Hyun-kyu helped from a careful distance. Studio space when she needed it. Introductions to buyers. Never crossing lines, never pushing, just present. "You don't have to do this," she told him one evening. "I want to." He smiled sadly. "I'll wait forever, Ella. However long it takes for you to heal." She should have been moved. Instead, she just felt tired. Across the city, Jae-won was destroying himself methodically. "Boss, you need to eat." His lieutenant, Dae-hyun, set down a tray of food that would go untouched. "Not hungry." "You haven't eaten in 3 days." "I said I'm not hungry." Jae-won looked like a ghost. Hollow-eyed, rail-thin, moving through his penthouse like he was haunting it. He'd stopped attending meetings. Stopped returning calls. Just sat in the dark, staring at wedding photos on his phone. The whispers started in the underground, the Black Wolf was dying. Not from bullets or betrayal. From heartbreak. "Sir." Min-jun, his second-in-command, entered cautiously. "We have a situation with the Busan territory." "Handle it." "Sir, they're demanding your presence." "I'm done." Jae-won's voice was empty. "Shut it all down. The operations, the territories, everything." Min-jun stared. "You're, what?" "I'm out. Find someone else to run it. I don't care anymore. You built this empire. For what?" Jae-won laughed bitterly. "I built it thinking power would protect me. It couldn't protect the only thing that mattered." Over the next month, he methodically dismantled everything. Sold territories. Paid off debts. Released men from obligations. The Black Wolf didn't just retire. It ceased to exist. His associates watched in horror as he burned his entire criminal empire to the ground, becoming nobody, just a broken man in an empty penthouse. "Why?" Dae-hyun asked. "Why destroy everything you've built?" "Because she hated who I was." Jae-won stared out at Seoul's lights. "Maybe if I become someone worthy, she'll." He couldn't finish. They both knew she wasn't coming back. Hyun-kyu's feelings shifted from pursuit to genuine care. He watched Ella work herself to exhaustion, saw how she never really smiled, noticed how she touched her empty ring finger constantly. "You still love him," he said one night. Ella didn't deny it. "Love isn't enough sometimes." "Isn't it?" He looked at her with devastating clarity. "You're miserable." "He's apparently lost his mind. I have sources saying he's quit everything, just vanished from society. You're both destroying yourselves apart." "He didn't trust me. He was scared." "You were scared. You both made mistakes." Hyun-kyu took her hand. "But Ella, I know what it looks like when someone loves you. And that man loves you like breathing." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "It doesn't matter now." But across Seoul, in an empty penthouse, Jae-won whispered to the darkness. "I already died when she left." And neither of them knew that the worst revelation was still coming. at Ella's door looked like a ghost from a life she'd never lived. Elegant, 60-something, wearing pearls and anxiety in equal measure. Her eyes, the same shape as Ella's, were red from crying. "Ella David?" Her voice trembled. "My name is Han Mi-suk. I'm your aunt." Ella's world tilted. "I don't have an aunt. I don't have anyone. That's what I need to talk to you about." Mi-suk's hands twisted together. "Please. May I come in?" They sat in Ella's small apartment, tea cooling between them, while Mi-suk pulled documents from her bag with shaking hands. 28 years ago, my brother Han Jin-woo had an affair with a woman named Sarah David. You were born from that relationship. She laid out a birth certificate. Your mother died in childbirth. My brother's wife demanded you be removed. Given away. She couldn't bear raising her husband's bastard child. Ella couldn't breathe. You're saying I'm not an orphan? You're the lost daughter of the Han family. One of Seoul's most powerful dynasties. Mi-suk's tears spilled over. I searched for you for years. Your father died 5 years ago, consumed by guilt. But I never stopped looking. More documents appeared. Photos of a man who had Ella's eyes, her smile. DNA test results with 99.9% probability of familial relationship. This is impossible, Ella whispered. There's more. Mi-suk's voice dropped. You have a half-brother. Same father, different mother. He was raised in the Han family while you were. She couldn't finish. Who? Ella's voice was hollow. Jang Hyun-kyu. His mother remarried after divorcing your father. He took his stepfather's name, but he's Han blood. He's your brother. The room spun violently. Hyun-kyu. The man who'd sent flowers. Who'd offered comfort. Who'd said, I'll wait forever. Her brother. No. Ella stood abruptly, knocking over tea. No, that's not he can't be. I have proof. Mi-suk spread more documents. Birth certificates. Family trees. Photos of a young Hyun-kyu with their father. Ella's stomach revolted. She barely made it to the bathroom before being sick. When she emerged, pale and shaking, Mi-suk was crying quietly. He doesn't know, does he? Ella whispered. No. His mother never told him about you. She wanted him to forget the Han family entirely after the divorce. He said he loved me. Ella's voice broke. He pursued me. He said. The full horror crashed over her. Her brother had fallen in love with her. Had held her while she cried. Had imagined a future where she was going to be sick again. 2 hours later, Ella stood outside Hyun-kyu's penthouse, documents clutched in trembling hands. He answered the door with a smile that died when he saw her face. Ella? What's wrong? She pushed past him, unable to look at him. We need to talk. Of course. Anything. Sit down. He obeyed, confused. She placed the documents on his coffee table like evidence of a crime. I found out who I am today, she said flatly. Who I really am. I don't understand. Han Jin-woo was my father. She watched him carefully. Does that name mean anything to you? His face went white. That was my father. My biological father before, he stopped, processing. Wait. He was your. We have the same father. Ella's voice was mechanical, detached, the only way she could survive this. Different mothers. We're half-siblings, Hyun-kyu. No. He stood abruptly. That's impossible. You're an orphan, you said. I was lied to. Hidden. Given away because his wife couldn't stand the sight of me. She pushed the DNA results toward him. It's all there. Every proof you could want. He grabbed the documents with shaking hands, reading frantically. She watched understanding dawn, watched his face crumble, watched the exact moment his world collapsed. I fell in love with my sister, he whispered. The documents slipped from his hands. You didn't know, Ella said, though her own horror mirrored his. I pursued you. His voice rose, cracking. I sent you flowers. I held you. I imagined, he made a choking sound. I imagined a future with you. I'm a monster. You're not. I am. He screamed it, falling to his knees. What kind of person falls in love with their own sister? What kind of sick, twisted? Stop it. Ella grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at her. You didn't know. We didn't know. That's not your fault. But he was sobbing now, great heaving sobs that shook his entire body. I can't stay here. I can't be in the same city as you knowing what I felt. What I wanted. Hyun-kyu. I have to leave. He pulled away, wiping his face roughly. Korea. Seoul. Everything. I have to go somewhere you'll never see me again. You're my brother, she said softly. The only family I have left. No. His laugh was broken. I can never be your brother. Not after this. Brothers don't. He couldn't finish. They sat in silence, two people destroyed by fate's cruelest joke. Finally, Hyun-kyu stood. There's something you need to know about Jae-won. What? He quit everything for you. The business, the power, all of it. I had him investigated. Hyun-kyu's smile was sad. He burned his entire criminal empire to the ground trying to become someone worthy of you. Ella's breath caught. Go back to him, Hyun-kyu whispered. He never stopped loving you. And you never stopped loving him. He moved to his window, looking out at Seoul. I was just the villain in my own tragedy. Don't let my mistakes destroy your love story. Where will you go? Far away. Maybe Europe. Maybe America. He turned to her one last time. Goodbye, Ella. I hope you find happiness. She wanted to hug him, to comfort him, but they both knew they could never touch again. Goodbye, she whispered. She left him standing there, her brother who could never be her brother, alone in his penthouse with the weight of impossible love crushing him. Jae-won's penthouse was dark when Ella arrived. She used the key she'd never returned, stepping into what felt like a mausoleum. Dust-covered surfaces. Curtains blocked all light. The air was stale, lifeless. Jae-won? A figure moved in the shadows. When he stepped into the dim light from the hallway, Ella's heart broke. He'd lost weight dangerous amounts. His eyes were hollow, dark circles carved beneath them. He looked like he'd aged a decade in 3 months. Ella. Her name on his lips was half prayer, half disbelief. You're not real. I'm real. She moved closer carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. Can I come in? He laughed bitterly. It's your home. It was always your home. She stepped fully inside, and he backed away. Why are you here? His voice cracked. Did you come to finalize things? Get your stuff? Because I boxed everything up, I was going to send it. I came to tell you the truth. She turned on a lamp, flooding the room with light. He flinched like it hurt. The photo was fake, she said. You already know that. Your people proved it. But you don't know the rest. She took a shaking breath. Hyun-kyu, he's my half-brother. Jae-won went very still. What? The whole story spilled out. The aunt. The Han family. The twisted fate that made her pursuer her sibling. Hyun-kyu's devastation. His exile. He never meant to fall in love with his sister, Ella finished, tears streaming. And I never cheated on you. Not emotionally, not physically, not ever. I was just broken, and he was there, and now he's gone forever because the shame is eating him alive. Jae-won collapsed onto the couch, head in his hands. I destroyed us for nothing, he whispered. You destroyed us because you didn't trust me. Because your first instinct was doubt. She sat beside him, maintaining distance. But I destroyed us too. I ran instead of fighting. I said our marriage was a mistake when it was the best thing I'd ever done. He looked at her then, and she saw everything she'd been missing for 3 months. Love. Longing. Devastation. Hope. I burned it all down, he said hoarsely. The Mafia, the territories, the Black Wolf. All of it. I quit everything, paid everyone off, walked away clean. His laugh was hollow. I thought if I became nobody, just a man with nothing, maybe you'd want me again. I wanted you when you were bleeding in my laundry room, Ella whispered. I wanted you when you couldn't cook rice. I wanted you when you were the Black Wolf and when you were just Jae-won who made terrible jokes. Her voice broke. I've never stopped wanting you. The distance between them evaporated. He pulled her to him desperately, and she crashed into his arms like coming home. The kiss was hungry, frantic, 3 months of starvation condensed into a single moment. I'm sorry, he gasped against her mouth. God, Ella, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry too. They were crying and kissing and holding each other so tightly it hurt, but neither could let go. Rain started outside, and Jae-won pulled her to the balcony. They stood in the downpour, Seoul's lights blurring through water and tears. No more secrets, he said, cupping her face. I'll tell you everything. Every dark thing, every dangerous thing. You deserve to know who you married. No more pride, she countered. No more running when things get hard. We fight together or not at all. Just us, they said simultaneously. He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring. Then he lifted her, carrying her inside to their bedroom, dusty and unused for months. I haven't been in here since you left, he admitted, setting her down gently. I couldn't. It smelled like you. She pulled him close, helping him out of his shirt with trembling hands. Then let's make new memories. What followed was tender and desperate in equal measure. Reconnection that was both physical and spiritual. Every touch was an apology, every kiss a promise, every whispered word a vow. You're my destiny, he breathed against her skin. You're my home, she whispered back. They took their time relearning each other, rebuilding what had broken with patience and care. The intimacy wasn't just physical, it was the baring of souls, the complete vulnerability of two people who'd nearly lost everything. Afterward, they lay tangled together, rain drumming against windows. I love you, Jae-won said. I never stopped. Even when I thought you'd chosen him, even when I wanted to hate you, I couldn't stop loving you. I love you too. She traced patterns on his chest. These 3 months felt like dying slowly. We're never doing that again. Never. Morning light found them in the kitchen. Ella sketching new designs at the counter while Jae-won attempted breakfast. Smoke filled the air. Jae-won? The rice is fighting back, he announced, waving a towel at the smoking pot. She burst into laughter, real, genuine, joyful laughter that had been absent for months. He turned to her, grinning despite the culinary disaster. I missed that sound. I missed making it. He abandoned the rice, pulling her into his arms. We're going to be okay, aren't we? She kissed him softly. Better than okay. We survived the worst. Everything else is just life. Just life, he agreed. Outside, Seoul woke to a new day. Somewhere in Europe, Hyunkyu boarded a plane to a future without them. But here, in this kitchen with burnt rice and second chances, two people who'd almost lost everything held each other and chose love. Again. And again. And forever. 5 years later, Seoul Fashion Week opened with Ella Kang's collection. Not Ella David anymore. Ella Kang is an internationally renowned designer whose name appeared in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and on the lips of celebrities worldwide. Her brand told stories through fabric, belonging, loss, redemption, love. Backstage, her 4-year-old daughter Ji-woo sat cross-legged with a sketchbook, tongue poking out in concentration as she drew princesses in elaborate gowns. "Baby, what are you making?" Ella knelt beside her. "A dress for you, Mommy. See? It has stars." Jaewon appeared, carrying coffee, still terrible at choosing good coffee, still trying. "My two artists. Should I be worried you'll replace me with fashion?" Ji-woo giggled. "Daddy, you can't sew." Tragically true. He kissed Ella's forehead. "Your show's about to start. Nervous?" "Always." She squeezed his hand. "But you're here, so I'm okay." They still held hands. Still shared noodles at tiny restaurants despite being able to afford Michelin stars. Still kissed in elevators when cameras weren't watching. Jaewon had built a legitimate empire: tech investments, real estate, clean business that let him sleep at night. The black wolf was buried so deep, even his enemies had forgotten the name. That evening, after her triumphant show, they watched the news together. Jang Hyunkyu, the reclusive billionaire, has donated another 50 million to orphanages across Europe. The reporter's voice filled their living room. A distant photo showed him older, still handsome, alone standing outside a children's home in Switzerland. He'd never married. Never returned to Korea. Never stopped trying to atone for a love that was never his fault. Ella touched the letter in her sketchbook, arrived last month with a Swiss postmark. "I'm happy you're happy. I finally found peace helping children who were lost like you were. Maybe in another life, I could have been the brother you deserved. In this one, I'll settle for being grateful you found your home. Your brother. Do you think he'll ever come back?" Jaewon asked softly. "No." Ella leaned into her husband's warmth. "But I think he's okay now." Finally. Later, they stood on the rooftop of the Moonlight Hotel, the same entrance where Jaewon had collapsed bleeding into her life 7 years ago. "If you found me bleeding today," he asked, pulling her close, "would you save me again?" Ella smiled, looking up at the man who'd been her catastrophe and her salvation. "Every time. In every lifetime. Even when you ruin rice." He laughed, kissing her as Seoul's lights sparkled like scattered diamonds below them. Their wedding rings gleamed in the city glow, simple silver bands they'd never upgraded, wouldn't dream of replacing. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing in the world isn't wealth or status or even destiny. Sometimes it's simply loving one person with everything you have, choosing them repeatedly, and building a home in the wreckage of almost lost chances. The woman who'd inadvertently broken 2 billionaires never meant to break anyone at all. She just loved fiercely, forgave completely, and learned that real strength isn't avoiding mistakes, it's healing from them together. Somewhere in Switzerland, Hyunkyu saw their photo in a magazine and smiled sadly. In Seoul, Ella and Jaewon went home to their daughter, their imperfect life, their hard one forever. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.